Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gender Impact and Learning session. My name is Lydia Wafula, a Research and Impact Assessment Officer for Griffin Program. And today I'm joined with great panelists to discuss and learn on some of the great work we've done with our partners on gender. The main objective of this session is to learn about the impact our partners have had on women smallholder farmers, with a focus on how we can enhance the impact and participation of women in the digital space for improved livelihoods. Uh, we, we are doing this session with the background that women play a key role in agriculture production. However, as we all know, they are affected by systematic challenges such as limited access to credit, input, production resources such as land and market, situations that have been made worse by digital divide, climate change, and the ongoing global pandemic. Seeking to reach out to more and improving the livelihood of women farmers, Agrifin and its ecosystem sought to explore and understand factors that affect the adoption and usage of digital technologies and services and their impact. So we reached out and engaged our research and design partners, that is Busara and Dalberg, to conduct a gender and impact study on adoption and usage of digital agriculture platforms among women. Building on the farmer impact session that we've just had an hour ago, this session aims to unpack our past engagements through a gender lens and glean lessons that players in our ecosystem can adapt. So with this, the session involves us sharing pre-recorded videos from one of the study that we conducted, that's the gender impact study, where we'll be sharing the key insights and recommendations across the partners that were involved in the study. And this recording is done by Busara. So I'll just share the screen so that we can listen to it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this annual learning event session on the Agrifin Gender Impact Assessment. My name is Miriam Youssef. I'm an associate at the Busara Center, and I'll be walking us through the objectives and key findings from this study. This study was commissioned by Mercy Corps and implemented by Dalberg and Busara from late 2020 to the first quarter of 2021. Now, given Agrifin's mandate to design, test, and scale digitally enabled solutions, the main objective of this study was really to understand what the impact of some of these digital solutions have been, particularly on women. That being said, our objectives were focused on 4 key areas. Number 1, understanding the existing trends in usage across a selection of partner digital solutions and products, particularly on women. Number 2, to understand women's attitudes and their decision-making process towards using digitally enabled solutions. Number 3, understanding the main factors influencing adoption and usage. And finally, to see what the overall impact of some of these products have been on women's livelihoods and their resilience. Based on this, we put together a set of lessons learned as well as recommendations on improving the adoption, utilization, and overall impact of these solutions, particularly on women. We worked with 4 partners for this study: DigiFarm, Farm to Market Alliance, Arifu, and AgriPay. DigiFarm and Farm to Market Alliance are more end-to-end solution providers and provide solutions across 3 main verticals: access to finance, access to markets, and access to learning. Arifu and AgriPay are less end-to-end solutions, Arifu being an e-learning platform that provides learning programs through SMS across multiple value chains, as well as business skills development for farmers. AgriPay, which is the Zambian National Bank's product, the Zambian National Bank, also known as Zanaco, and it provides farmers with a savings platform as well as an account to conduct transactional activity at 0 cost. Zanaco also aims to launch a learn and a borrow function later in the year, which will also allow farmers to get educational content as well as access microcredit. We used a mixed method research approach to conduct this study, which included both quantitative and qualitative research. The quantitative aspect involved data analysis of a sample of users from each partner to really see what the trends in engagement have been, as well as a few demographics of the users. The qualitative phase involved in-depth interviews with both farmers as well as key stakeholders and informants that work together with these partners to implement and deliver these solutions. And finally, we applied a behavioral lens to understand what are the cognitive factors or cognitive models that underpin the demand or the desire to use and continue using these solutions. In total, we conducted 73 human-centered design interviews, and these interviews greatly influence the factors that we have identified as the key drivers of adoption and usage. When we look at trends in engagement for AgriPay, we see that account registrations and ownerships are fairly equal between men and women, although overall we saw that there were more dormant accounts. Over 50% of accounts were dormant. But of those that we assessed, we realized that men tend to perform approximately 3 times as many transactions as women. We see that women tend to engage more with AgriPay for its savings value proposition, as they have more inflows, and less outflows, meaning that they're using the accounts mostly for savings rather than for transactional activity. For Arifu, we try to understand engagement based on the interactions with the learning content, the completion rates of the learning programs, as well as the knowledge scores achieved at the end of each program. We see that most users interact with the learning content within 1 to 50 times across their engagement spread. And we see that most men interact at higher levels than women. We see that completion rates are slightly higher for men, but when we look at the types of learning programs that men and women engage with, we see that women tend to perform better, have higher interaction rates and completion rates with learning programs around the poultry value chain, as well as learning programs that relate to the planting or pre-planting phases of their crop value chain. So that's seed selection, land preparation, and even soil testing. We see that with knowledge scores, they're quite robust for both men and women, with most people achieving knowledge scores above 50% across most programs, which indicates that not only is Arifu quite successful in delivering remote content through SMS, but it's also successful in delivering content that is well understood and assimilated. For DigiFarm, we see slightly less proportions of women registered compared to AgriPay. But of those women that are registered, we see that they are very active and actively use and engage with the platform. We see more women engaging with the Access to Markets module, and we see that access to credit is fairly even between men and women. With learning, we see similar trends under Arifu, with slightly more men engaging with learning content, but we see that the most popular learning content for both men and women is around poultry, as well as financial education. Finally, with FTMA, we see the same trends around training and learning. We see women participate more in the core farming training around agricultural best practices and less with the more technical events and training around crop protection, pesticides, and chemicals. We see that access to credit is also fairly even between men and women, but we saw that women tend to uptake less credit from digital providers like Farm Drive and Credit Factory, and more credit from more commercial bank lenders like KCB. Overall, when we look at the levels of engagement, we see that it is more robust for platforms that have more in-person touch points like AgriPay, DigiFarm, and FTMA that leverage a lot of agent networks, a lot of local farming groups and cooperatives that have strong female membership. We also see that engagement by women is also a little bit stronger with platforms that have more service offerings. So not just providing learning, but credit, access to markets, and other features and services that help improve their overall agricultural activity. We identified 6 main factors that are driving or influencing adoption and usage. The first being trust. We see that women are more receptive to digital solutions that they trust more than men. And this is particularly the case with DigiFarm, which is a Safaricom product, and AgriPay, which is a Zambian National Bank product, which are very well-known brands. For brands like Arifu that don't have the same presence or established brand presence, they were able to drive trust and adoption through very personalized and targeted messaging that really helped distinguish them from a lot of the SMS scams that women were concerned about. Next, we see that access to flexible credit as well as access to guaranteed markets helped drive not only adoption but sustained usage for platforms like FTMA and DigiFarm. We know that women engage more in the early stages of farming, so the planting and cultivation stages, and therefore heavily value liquidity and access to quality inputs very early on in the farming season. Coupled with the access to guaranteed markets at the end of the season, women want to have access to competitive pricing as well as help in navigating markets and negotiating prices. So, this not only helped drive adoption, but helped women continue to use these platforms during the course of their engagement. We also see that a combination of both e-learning as well as in-person touchpoints work best to help women along their learning journey. Although women engage quite well with Arifu's remote platform, they were also keen to see some in-person touchpoints or more interactive learning during the expanse of their learning journey. For digital literacy and simplicity, we see that SMS is fairly easy to engage with, but women tend to have more challenges with the more complex USSD platforms that have quite complex menu structures, and this acts as a barrier for continued usage, after the initial stages. We see that savings and financial independence was really one of the key draws for engagement with platforms like AgriPay. We see that most women see savings as a way to maintain their resilience in unexpected downturns and a way to improve their financial independence. And they seek platforms like AgriPay that guarantee safe storage, but also allow them to exercise a sense of independence and discipline over their finances. Finally, for gendered roles, we see that this does play a key factor in limiting the level or the extent of engagement with the digital platforms that we've seen, specifically those around learning. We see that women tend to be anchored or explore those learning programs that are already in line with their perceived gendered roles, even if they do want to expand their learning and engage in new value chains. They tend to stick to what they're already comfortable with, compared to men who are more diverse and explore a wide range of features and learning programs, irrespective of whether it's within their value chain or not. So these are one of the key factors that really drive adoption and usage. Based on our assessments, we were also able to segment women into different groups based on demographics and data on usage. And with an elicitation method, a means and elicitation method on mental models, we were able to see what kind of cognitive models underpin their decision making. We see that we have super users, average users, and low users. The super users are classed as very entrepreneurial women. They're community leaders, self starters, a little bit more digitally savvy, better educated, and these women have very clear cut farming goals to maximize profitability and expand their value chains, and are driven by cognitive models based on evidence and logic. These women are very conscientious and not only think about the value add for themselves, but also for their wider community and food security in their areas. Average users are fairly similar to super users, the main difference being that they are a little bit more hesitant and therefore don't act on these digital solutions as much as the super users. These women are a little bit more hesitant due to gendered roles, lower decision making power, although they have a lot of curiosity and interest in engaging with digital solutions. They're a little bit more anchored to the default solutions that they have that are less integrated with digital platforms. Finally, we have the low user segment. These are the most passive. These are the most complacent of users, and we class them as very uninterested skeptics. Their decision making process relies heavily on traditional beliefs around farming and culture, and rely heavily on spousal approval to engage with new services and products. These are the women that also rely heavily on signaling from other women in the groups or cooperatives that they engage with, and they have cognitive models that are based heavily on faith and instinct rather than logic and evidence. When we look at the overall impact of these solutions, we can summarize them in four main buckets. The first being improving participation by women. We see that a lot of women who get early access to credit and the liquidity they need to get the inputs are more likely to participate in the farming season rather than having delayed engagement or no engagement at all if they're not able to secure the resources they need to begin the farming season. Secondly, we see improved yields as a direct result of better knowledge and better farming practices gained from platforms like Arifu, DigiFarm, and FTMA that actively offer training both remotely and in person. We see that this, coupled with guaranteed markets and access to markets, has helped improve disposable incomes for women and not only helped them to contribute more to household expenditures, but has helped them to gain more respect from their spouses and given them better agency over more decision making. Finally, we see that improved financial discipline has also been one of the key benefits from platforms like AgriPay that not only allow women to meet their savings goals, but allow them to improve their ability to budget as well as manage their finances more effectively. The main recommendations coming out of this study begin with awareness and onboarding. We see that a combination of both above the marketing as well as below the line marketing works well. Above the line marketing meaning the very mass media, radio campaigns, ad campaigns, and below the line marketing refers to the more direct interpersonal engagement, going through grassroots networks to reach women, especially the low segment of users, through savings groups, cooperatives. This really helps to leverage the social signaling that collective engagement offers and helps to drive better trust amongst these women. We also see that engaging third parties like husbands, especially for lower segments of women that require more approval and support to engage with these platforms, is also quite key in the awareness and onboarding stage. For financial services, we see that providing transparency around credit and insurance is the main recommendation to really help reduce misconceptions and the perceived risks that women have, particularly within the average and low user segments of women. In addition, offering more innovative combinations of credit, so offering both group as well as individual based credit can really help women engage with credit more, especially those who are very averse to credit within the lower segments of women, and also help women who cannot qualify for credit without group guarantees. Finally, we've seen how well FTMA and DigiFarm have helped women transition from the harvesting to access to markets phase of their agricultural journey, but we still see a lot of women have logistical challenges, and these mobility constraints prevent women from fully benefiting from the access to market services that are on offer. So really supporting women with their mobility so that they can really take advantage of access to markets. This could be through more agent support, or it could be providing a feature that allows women to access transportation at discounted rates to help move their produce to market. And finally, with learning, we see that SMS has worked very well to engage women remotely, but we see that women still seek those in-person or interactive learning experiences. And this could be provided through integrated solutions through IVR, as well as providing some form of in-person touchpoint through agent networks, if that is feasible. And finally, we see that in line with the previous comments around gendered roles, trying to mitigate anchoring women's expectations, especially their learning expectations, to gendered roles early on in the engagement process or the awareness and onboarding process, and trying to prime and nudge women to explore a variety of learning programs will give them the confidence to be able to take agency over different aspects of their agricultural value chain. So this brings us to the end of the presentation. We really look forward to sharing the final reports, and we encourage everyone to look into them and really see the details that have come out of this report. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Based on the recommendations and insights that we got from the report that Mariam has just shared, we sought out to hear what the partners' feedback is on the recommendations and what is their plan on ensuring they integrate that into their program, into their programming. So let's hear what they have to say about their key takeaway messages, the key takeaway messages they got from the study, and what's next for them.
Mercycorps has been working with AgriFin for just over 3 years now, and recently we were involved in a gender impact study where we got some interesting insights as well as takeaways. The first one was that women are withdrawing less and receiving more inflows as compared to men. And as a result, they are using AgriPay as a savings account rather than a transactional account. And so currently we're working on enhancing our customer value management plan where we are accelerating the use of the other services such as the transactional account, the learn, as well as the loan so that we can enhance their productivity as well as their income levels. We are also enhancing our marketing efforts, especially to ensure that we provide support for these women post registration or post account opening. And the intention is to have how to guides to help these women navigate through the platform and hence use more of the services. Another key finding was that of accessibility to our agency network. A number of women has cited the fact that they have to travel long distances, and because they are constrained by time due to household chores, they then don't get to use the actual services. And so currently we are expanding on our agency footprint by onboarding the agribusinesses, agro dealers, distributors, and aggregators, as well as the savings groups, so that they can be used as platforms for them to then transact. At the same time, we are also working with the community leaders and using agents really as community champions so that they assist during the post registration and pre-registration process by ensuring that these women have the registration requirements. In Zambia, connectivity is a challenge, especially in the rural areas. And so part of our efforts now are to look at providing what we call express agency on the USSD. Generally, the findings have been insightful. And going forward, as ANACO, we are working on using these findings to promote our customer usage and retention and marketing efforts to ensure that we service the women better.
Working with Mercy Corps AgriFin since 2016 in Kenya and Tanzania has provided ARIFU with opportunities to create and deploy digital training content on agriculture and financial practices. Our collaboration has allowed us to extend our reach and to create impact on farmers' practices and livelihoods. Our recent engagement with Mercy Corps AgriFin is on a gender impact study that specifically aims to understand the impact of digital training on women smallholder farmers. Through this study, we have learned about the differential engagement patterns with the training content between women and men. We've also learned about the preference that women have for training content on farmer groups and crop planting. The study has also helped us to understand and unpack the knowledge constraints and time constraints that women face, which limit their learning. Using the recommendations from this study, we aim to extend our reach and impact on women in 2021 by creating more awareness about digital training and by deploying strategic reminder campaigns to reach out to women when they are more likely to be free. We also aim to invest in other easy-to-use modes of content delivery, including IVR. We look forward to working with Mercy Corps AgriFin in the future to co-design and deploy programs and to reach out to more farmers.
From the gender impact study, we have seen, despite all the challenges that we have, generally, DigiFarm has impacted the lives of the farmers, women farmers who have been doing the practice, the agriculture, using the input that DigiFarm has provided for them. We have also seen them going out of their way to be able to increase the fields as well as improve on the productivity. We have seen a constant use of the input that DigiFarm has delivered. This has resulted in them having more income for themselves as well as the household. What we've also seen is the women now have a voice in terms of what needs to be done within the household mechanism. The other big bit that we have seen is we have supported the farmers right from the input distribution, the extension service. And this has given us the impetus to be able to look at DigiFarm in a product lens that supports women specifically. It has also pointed out areas of opportunities for us where we can have more women-centric ideas and activities around onboarding. How do we support the farmers in the input distribution? How do we support them in giving them the finances? How do we also support them from an extension perspective? In the study, we have also seen the women have been able to save time, and the time that they would have used to be able to find information. We have extension officers coming to the farm to support the women in doing the agricultural activity.
So in addition to that, we are really grateful to be joined by Hannah, a representative from the Gates Foundation. So I'll hand over to her so that she can give us brief remarks on how this whole study fitted into the research portfolio and what her take is on about the study and what can we learn from it. Thank you, and over to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Lydia, and hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to join this session today. As Lydia said, I'm Hannah Reed, a program officer on the Digital Farmer Services team at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where I manage our work on evidence and learning. And I'm really excited to be here participating in this year's annual learning event with all of you. Excuse me. Before I share my reflections, I first want to say a big thank you to Arifu, DigiFarm, FTMA, and Zanaco for being a part of this study and for sharing your reflections with us. As Lisa said in her opening remarks yesterday, it takes bravery to engage in research, especially impact research during a time like this when there's so much change and uncertainty in the world. It's not always easy to say yes, and I really do appreciate your participation in this study, allowing Busara and Dahlberg to speak to your customers and for being open to learning. And thank you to the Mercy Corps team, Lisa, Collins, and Lydia for so thoughtfully designing and managing the work, and to Busara and Dahlberg for the excellent execution and analysis. To conclude this panel, I'd like to share some reflections on why we commissioned this study, key takeaways, and a few thoughts on how we will use these findings going forward. At the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we pride ourselves on being a learning organization. And that means that we need data and evidence to understand what works and how to improve our programming to make a difference in the lives of the people we serve. The overarching aim of the agricultural development team is to support country-led, inclusive agricultural transformation that benefits small-scale producers, empowers women, and improves nutrition. On the Digital Farmer Services team, we contribute to this goal by investing in farmer-facing solutions and ecosystem enablers, which increase the availability, quality, and reach of digital agricultural solutions, which benefit small-scale producers. Our theory of change is premised on the hypothesis that farmers will be more likely to adopt and use digital solutions when they are intentionally designed and tailored to the specific needs of the user, offered as a bundle, affordable, and available when farmers need them. Ultimately, we believe that increased access and use of services by both men and women will result in improved ability to manage risks and shocks like those we've experienced this year, increased productivity and income through greater access to markets and higher profits, and increased resilience. While increasing access and use of solutions amongst all small-scale producers is a priority, we are particularly interested in learning how to increase access and use by women. According to a 2019 CTA report, only about a quarter, or 25% of registered users of digital ag solutions are women, despite the fact that women make up about 50% of the agricultural labor force. In in AgriFin, we see those numbers a bit higher. And we have seen in the literature and in practice that women face unique challenges to accessing, using, and realizing the benefits of technological innovation and services, which may be contributing to these lower usage rates. And while we know that the mobile gender gap is narrowing, according to the latest GSMA Mobile Gender Gap report, women across low and middle income countries are still 8% less likely than men to own a mobile phone. And while access to a mobile is important, this is only one barrier women face. Other barriers, such as gendered norms and customs, limit women's mobility, participation in decision-making, and time use. There are differences in access to inputs, including land, fertilizer, improved seed, machinery, as well as information, skills, and extension services. Digital ag solutions, from tailored advisory and e-learning to digital financial tools and online marketplaces, have the potential to help women overcome some of these barriers and reduce the gender productivity gap, which stands at 8% in Kenya to more than 30% in Nigeria. The purpose of this study and our goal in working with the Mercy Corps AgriFin team and partners was to improve our collective understanding of the impact of digital farmer services on women's lives and livelihoods, and to understand what value-added services women value most and why. Which product offerings, channels, and aspects of the customer experience resonate most, and where do they see room for improvement? We were interested in learning about how women engage with these services, if they were reaping the same benefits as men, and what, if anything, was different about their experience. Our aim was to generate insights which could translate into greater engagement and participation of women in digital ag solutions, which can lead to greater productivity, profitability, agency, and empowerment. The results Miriam shared today offer us important insights into these questions and contribute to the growing evidence base on the impact of digital ag solutions on small-scale producer outcomes. Importantly, we've learned that these products and services are enhancing women's lives. Through services like Arifu, women are gaining knowledge about agricultural practices, which translates to increased yields and productivity. Through end-to-end service platforms like DigiFarm and FTMA, women have greater access to inputs, training, information, and market linkages, which enables joint decision-making in the household and provides women with more choices about their agricultural enterprises. And through financial products like AgriPay, women have greater flexibility and control over their finances. These findings also point to opportunities. For example, we see that women tend to engage with value chains and modules which align to their traditional roles in agriculture, and they're less likely to engage with new modules or learning about areas which don't apply to their day-to-day activities. There may be an opportunity through onboarding and training to introduce women to other value chains and modules such as land improvement and farm management, which women generally think are not relevant to them. We also learned that access to market services were a key draw for women to join platforms, as they offer women farmers a more certain income for their families through access to competitive markets. And through the qualitative interviews, we learned that their decision-making process is heavily influenced by their household needs and aspirations. This is especially true for the more active users. The findings from this study also align with findings from a recent evidence review, which found that farmers will often modify or adapt products to meet their needs, such as what we saw in the case of AgriPay, where women were more commonly using it as a savings vehicle rather than a transaction platform as it was originally designed. These findings are hugely valuable because they provide insight into which qualities women value most, and those insights can be used to improve the design and tailor products to customer needs. It's one thing to ask people what they want, and it's another to observe what they do. Another finding that resonated was the important role of human agents. While digital can do many things, it can reduce time and costs, increase scale and customization, it cannot completely replace the skills, emotion, and connection provided by human beings. And as we saw in this study, women valued the in-person trainings provided by FTMA and the support provided by the DigiFarm DVAs. The presentation today highlighted some of the key findings from this study, and beneath those highlights is a detailed report full of rich insights and recommendations, much more than you've seen today. I encourage everyone to take a look after this event when the reports are published. The purpose of generating evidence is to learn and to use those learnings to adapt. It was quite interesting to hear all the partners will use these findings to refine their marketing, training, product offerings. And at BMGF, we will use them too. First, we're going to spread the word, sharing these findings with our network of partners, from researchers to implementers to donors to policymakers. And second, we're going to leverage these insights and hold these best practices in the front of our minds when we look at our own strategy and work with partners to design grants. For example, the characterization of user segments, the super users, average users, low users, along with the associated mental models, can be used to develop specific strategies, products, services, marketing campaigns, and retention activities that align with the needs of each segment, rather than treating as a generalized category of users. Other important strategies, such as engaging men and leveraging women's groups to support women, can be used to engage these different user groups. And we will continue learning, testing our hypotheses, and incorporating those learnings into our work. I hope you will do the same. And lastly, I'd like to say thanks again to the Mercy Corps team, Busara, Dahlberg, DigiFarm, Arifu, Zanaco, FTMA, and importantly, all of the women who gave their time and shared their perspectives and experiences with us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Hannah. That was quite insightful, and thank you again for engaging with us. So on to the next session. I want the panelists for this session to please introduce yourself and then able to pick questions. So I'll start with Osman.
Hi everyone, I'm Osman. Just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's already spoken and of course watching the videos. Lots of lessons and insights from this particular effort to complement our work. I'm the head of research at Arifu and really excited about the conversation there.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hi, my name is Jessica Sompola. I am the head alliances, handling strategic partnerships and digital banking. Very insightful remarks from Hannah, and looking forward to implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna.
Yeah, hi everyone, and happy to have all of you join us this evening here in Nairobi. And I'm Lorna Wanjama, working for Mercy Corps as the Regional Gender Advisor in the Africa region. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary.
Mary Wanjiko with Farm to Market Alliance in Kenya as the monitoring, evaluation and learning lead. Quite happy to participate in these insights that will allow us to have a greater reach in women and addressing gender issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Wasike.
Hi everyone, my name is Wasike from Safaricom Research, specifically supporting research on DigiFarm. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna. Hey, Edna.
Sorry. I was on mute. Good evening, everyone. My name is Edna. I support partnerships at DigiFarm.
Thank you, Maureen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maureen. I'm a project manager at Dahlberg Advisors and led the research from the Dahlberg side. I'm very much looking forward to your reactions to the findings.
Thank you, Mariam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam. I'm an associate at Busara. My apologies, my video isn't on. My internet is a bit unstable, but thank you so much. And thank you to Hannah for those closing remarks. I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Collins.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are. I'm Collins, the one that Hannah has been referring to as a person who was trying to lead these activities at Mercy Corps. Great to have all of you present, and I'm looking forward to asking questions or getting questions from you in terms of the Q&A.
Thank you, everyone. And for the question and answer session, I encourage you to send in, please, your questions, comments, and reactions, where we have our panelists ready to react to them and also to learn from each other. So to kick us off, I'll start with a question to the panelists. So what's your reaction or comment based on Hannah's presentation? And what new other gender-focused project are you currently working on? Thank you. So I'll start with Jessica.
Thank you very much, Lydia. I think what really resonates with me a couple of points that came out, and a true testament of what we're experiencing with AgriPay. I think Hannah touched on how women are less likely to access mobile phones. I think we've noticed this as something that's common. And because of that, a lot of women tend to share their phones. And because of that, it affects even the access of financial services. Also very interesting was really to see that our women are saving more. And really that means we are now trying to see how can we then market, how can we then build products that would then be able to satisfy some of their needs. I think currently we're looking at some new gender-focused projects with UNCDF, UNDP, where we're looking at providing maybe small loans to women and looking at how do we guarantee those as well as also enhancing our focus also on the savings groups. I think that's something that would want to take up. We have a couple of partners. Thankfully, AgriFin had introduced us to a number of partners that have been helping us, and our focus is how do we interact with these particular women in the savings groups, and how do we interface and make sure that we provide services that will be relevant to them.
Thank you. Mary?
Thank you so much. I think what resonated with me and what we're doing at FTMA is the focus on human agents to deliver what we call last mile solutions to small scale farmers. And from the study specifically, it was highlighted that female-led farmer service center had a greater reach and impact to women farmers. So as FTMA, we are promoting a greater number of women farmer service center. And if I can describe what a farm service center is, it's an individual who is selected from a community and who has quite a passion in agriculture, in delivering solutions, and it's she or he is an agripreneur and is situated right there close to the small scale farmers and the community. So far we have 430 farmer service centers, but the ratio of women is quite low. So from the study, we've realized that we need to increase the number of human agents, the farmer service centers that are women. And not only do we need to increase the numbers, but we need also to build their capacity to ensure that they're able to deliver end-to-end solutions to the smallholder farmers. End-to-end means that they're able to deliver solutions like training, they're able to deliver solutions like inputs, they're able to provide markets to the smallholder farmers within their community. And the fact that the gender study actually proved that female-led farmers actually reach more female farmers than the male-led FSCs. We feel this is the direction that FTMA is doing. We are currently putting a lot of investment in ensuring that we reach as many as possible female-led farmer service centers. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Osman?
Yeah, no, that was really, really interesting to hear the remarks from Jessica and Mary. Certainly from Hannah. I think, maybe just a quick context on what ARIFU is, right? There's a slight distinction between, I guess, all the different organizations here. But so ARIFU's mission, it's broadly a digital learning platform, but its mission is to provide information and opportunities to all. And that, of course, is not restricted to agricultural information, right? So it could be financial education, business education, different value chains, how to sell, how to do X, Y, how to connect with a specific service that other players might be providing. And so keeping that in mind, like one of the big questions for us has been, and the study has really, really informed a lot of our thinking while it's complemented a lot of our research on this topic. And one of the key points have already been made, right? Like phone ownership, phone availability is limited, bandwidth is limited. There's decision-making power that varies by context, of course, within country and out, of course, across countries on different value chains and different aspects. I mean, certainly one of the things that came out of our data was something that was elucidating for me. Now I understand why, but when it first came out, it was like, well, women seem to be predominantly engaging with poultry. Is this actually true outside of our data? And in Kenya, at least, it seems to be relatively more true. I don't know about other countries, but certainly, yeah. and certainly in drought-resistant potato, but also within value chain, so pre-planting and planting activities. So what does that tell us? I mean, that tells us quite a bit, actually. Some of our strategies right now, in terms of actual execution of projects, so we are building out multiple models of outreach in terms of finding light ways to have in-person touch points that cost low, keep us a tech solution, but at the same time, bridge that trust gap to bring women into the platform a little bit more than before, whether it's showcasing results in the community, whatever it might be. So we're running a few pilots on different models for that, working with CBOs as well as existing learners who've engaged a lot, existing women, existing men, see what might be the case. Second, we are also working with a couple of partners in Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa to identify, somewhat echoing Mary's comment on end-to-end aspects of knowledge, right? So it's not just about growing the crop, it's about understanding the quality of produce that's in demand at the market, as well as market prices, bring it back so that that end-to-end information is packaged in a usable way in a marketplace of sorts, right? So there's another aspect over there. Third, we're also working on building out this project in credit scoring, which also supported by AgriFin Accelerate before. We have this pilot study, but we want to actually hone in on the question of how do we enhance women's financial inclusion with a focus on merchants and farmers, but farmers, obviously always going to be the case given the proportion of the labor in most of the countries. So a lot of these things are there. And lastly, I mean, we're trying to synthesize some of these points in a short knowledge product that we're publishing in the next couple of weeks, which will come to the FA pretty soon, hopefully, and certainly happy to share Anna and others here. That will synthesize some of the points from the study as well as our own research in parallel to talk about what should be the way forward in the ways that people approach the design of technology products as well as general services. So a lot, one of the advantages and disadvantages of being agnostic into the sector and what we mean by information and opportunities is that we have a lot to do. And we look forward to building out partnerships with those here as well as outside of this conversation to take this forward.
Thank you, Wasike.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lydia. I'm very grateful to Gates and specifically to Hannah for the kind of support they're offering. And two things that I picked from, or that I'm very grateful to Hannah is the fact that she has mentioned about impact measurement. And I come from the school of thought that says that if you make a promise to a user of a service or a solution, please also have in place a framework to be able to measure the impact of that solution that you're providing. So that impact measurement component is very important. So I picked that, especially answering that question of if X, then Y, if not X, then not Y. Very important. Two, she mentioned again the issue of access to market. Now, these are all the modules we have on DigiFarm, amongst other modules. But in our interaction with farmers, what we've learned is that this is one of the very important modules that you can have access to market, right? So the fact that she has mentioned that, I've taken note of that. Are we already doing any gender focused projects? Very primary stages. So again, with support of Masiko, we are doing something on access to market in a place in Kenya called Oloitoktok. Again, access to market, gender lens, very primary stage. IVR, again, we are at kind of Uber kind of model for e-extension. Again, primary stages, but yes, we are doing that. Apart from that, I would say that we have to properly socialize these insights with our internal DigiFarm stakeholders. So we are planning for a proper workshop, so we can just be able to flesh out and be able to delimit which are the low-hanging fruits we can start with, which one will require some kind of long-term planning. But as a researcher for DigiFarm, the easy low-hanging fruit I can see is, we have what you call DigiFarm Village Advisors, and it's a robust and kind of expansive network on the ground. So the issue of in-person training, I think we can easily leverage our DVS, DigiFarm Village Advisors, to be able to have that in-person training, as long as two things. One, we equip the DVS, and for me, equipping them has three things. One is skill set, then tool set, and then mindset, right? Then two, the other thing we can do, and this has been mentioned in the report, is the issue of engaging the gatekeepers who are the husbands. So I think for me, that would be the low-hanging fruit. But yes, we're already doing 1 or 2, 3 things around this gender work. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We have very interesting questions coming in, and we are supposed to answer them. So I think I'll just pick one question because of time, and then give it to one of you. So the question I'll pick is that will you agree that it is more expensive to provide services to women smallholder farmers? And how can we make sure that the services to women are sustainable? So that I will pick Osman.
Sure. I think there's a couple of ways to look at it. One, I guess we're not looking at it from an expensive perspective. I think it is part of a mission perspective. So one question is around that, like, so what services, how do we design them? How do we make it cost efficient? And how do we keep our eyes on it as an investment rather than as a more expensive or less expensive question? Because if it works, and when it works, it's going to be great for everyone. It's going to be great for growth in a country. It's going to be great for the households. It's going to be great for multiple reasons. So I don't think the right way to look at it is whether it's more expensive or not. And certainly the upfront cost may be more expensive, but you know, let's put it this way: without this research, or without perhaps, every organization's put in some level of effort to try to understand the gender lens, but we're going to continue to do so beyond the study, of course, right? It's not the end of the research. So some of these costs are already being borne by organizations. Some things are already known. Now it's more about how do you take those lessons to drive things further. And certainly, like, financial institutions would be better placed to talk about the delivery of financial services. For us, it's also about linkages to those services, deal flow for these partners, elucidating that there is a market of demand for these services for partners like financial institutions like Zanico and others. So yeah, I guess the lens is about opportunity and investment, as well as, I guess, mission and a moral purpose here. Right? So I don't think that's the way to look at it.
Okay, thank you. I think because of time, I'll hand over to Collins because of the award session, but we have a lot of questions that are in the chat. So please, the panelists, take time to go through the chat, be able to.
Can I interject? Sorry, I know we're short of time. Jessica unmuted while I was speaking, and she had a smile on her face, and I want to know what she's thinking. So if we can take 30 more seconds, if you want.
Is it okay if I could react, Lydia? I know Osman did mention, I thought I could comment around the question that you've raised. To a certain extent, I think it is expensive, yes, to provide services to smallholder farmers across the board, women or men. And so what we've done, obviously with the gender focus, is to look at how can we make this sustainable. So trying to pass on the cost as a bank, because we're in the business of making money, but passing on the cost to the off-takers as well. So we're trying to package AgriPay not just as a smallholder farmer account, but also look at how do we then provide more services to this off-taker in terms of facilities, in terms of loans as well. And another point is, because the women are saving more, we want them then to keep that money longer in the bank, so that we build a use case to then provide more services to them. So I thought I could comment on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. As I was saying, we have questions in the chat session, so please take time to answer and react to it so that we can document it and share it with our participants. Collins, over to you.
Yeah, for me, I think my key takeaway is the gap. We are seeing partners who have achieved greater efficiencies in serving and reaching women, and partners who are still starting to understand how to reach out to them and incorporate them much more in their products and services. So there's a lot we can learn from each other. We hope by us doing this study, we've been able to add to that discussion, be able to just chime in and show you that there are certain aspects that can easily be done for you to, or for a particular partner to move from one stage to the next. And as a result, we have also chosen to reward certain partners that have achieved greater impact towards serving women. And as I said in my earlier session, there is the awards a section where Tamara Cook, who's the CEO of FSD Kenya, recorded a very good video recognizing those partners who have been able to achieve this level of impact. In that particular session, in that particular video, DigiFarm recognized they were able to always or achieve 40% women in their portfolio. Zanakov always incorporated women, and AgriPay product is specifically geared to women, and an Agri Wallet. So kindly just go over to the awards section of the event site and view those particular awards and videos, and appreciate some of our partners who have been able to achieve greater heights in terms of serving smallholder farmers. With that, I'd like to encourage our panelists and thank our panelists first for being there with us. And I encourage you to go the session page, look at the questions that have been asked there. Some of them are more or less linked to how we approached the work, and I think that can be more or less addressed by digging deeper into the reports, as Hannah said, but others are more or less your opinion. So I would really like to get your opinion more as we continue our conversations during the learning event. So thank you for your time, and continue. Have a nice evening or have a nice day, wherever you are.